All right, everybody, welcome to another episode of the Elite Junior Profiles podcast episode. We're really excited to bring this episode to our audience this morning because we're with kind of a legend especially in the hockey world with Coach Lincoln Flagg. Want to welcome our guests here, Coach Lincoln Flagg and my partner, Paul Peckman. How you guys doing this morning?
Great, Lane. Thank you.
Awesome to have you here, Coach Flagg. I'm going to turn it over to my partner, Paul, and let him kind of give you a good introduction.
Guys, we are here this morning with Lincoln Flagg, a good buddy of mine. We spent many days behind the bench together. And Link, we're really excited to have you on this morning and talk a little bit about just your history and some of the things that you have for advice for student athletes and parents and going through the process today. How you doing this morning, buddy?
I'm great, man. It's always great to be able to sit down and talk hockey with you. I'll tell you, we've done that for days and hours and weeks at a time. So this is a lot of fun. I'm glad to be here.
Good. So tell me, or tell us a little bit about your background. Just go into that a little bit and let everybody know who we're talking to.
Yeah. Okay. Well, goes back a long way. As a player, I played hockey. I played junior hockey up in Massachusetts. I was born up in Boston area. Played my college hockey at UMass Amherst. A couple of years of minor pro. Back then, the minor leagues weren't quite as good as they are today. They weren't really used for funneling players up into the pros, and I realized that pretty quick and didn't want to get my head smashed in having to fight all the time. So I stepped back and went into coaching. I coached college hockey for 4 years at American International College in Springfield, Mass. And then I went back to coaching junior hockey back in 1984. My mentor and my coach, a legend, Gary Dineen, came to me and he had cancer and asked me to take over the program, and for which I was very glad to do that. And that's basically why I'm here today. Gary was a great teacher of the game. He knew the psychology behind the game and taught me not only to become a hockey player, but taught me to become a hockey coach. So I've been coaching youth and junior hockey basically for the last 35 years, both up north in Massachusetts, Connecticut, and most recently last 8 years here in Carolina.
It says on your LinkedIn profile, Coach, that you were a deputy sheriff as well. That's an interesting component to your resume. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, that was a whole nother life. I obviously in hockey, you don't make a whole lot of money unless you're coaching up in the National Hockey League level.
Right.
So while I was coaching, I had to work, and my double major in college was political science and pre-law. So I wanted to do something with the law field, and the sheriff of our county, I had coached his 4 boys, and he knew me pretty well, and was looking for someone to come in and work at his warrant and process office. And I ended up coming in and working there for 16 years. I became is senior deputy in charge of the office and president of the Mass Deputy Sheriff Association. So I did that in conjunction with coaching. I was able to coach because I was able to basically set some time frames where I could get out to coach. And as long as I was able to do my job, I was allowed to coach. And that's something that I've had a passion for since I've started. I got into coaching because I missed the camaraderie of the locker room. I missed the game. I miss trying to help develop young men and into hockey players and good people and good students. And so I decided, to stay involved. I do this part-time, and that's how it started. And what was part-time became a lifelong passion, a lifelong love. And so I decided to leave a very good job at the sheriff's office, take a much lesser paid job to be a little more happier personally in my own life, and to be able to help some of these kids out on their goals and on their journeys through hockey and education.
Lane, I got a quick story about Lincoln and his, just to show you how big and how well known Lincoln is known in every aspect, even the sheriff's department. We're on a bus trip coming back from Boston, and our bus driver gets pulled over. Right, the cop comes on the bus, and Lincoln pulls out his sheriff's card, and the guy knows Lincoln because he coached his son.
Where?
I mean,
what state were you in the middle of? Were you in Boston?
Connecticut.
We were in Connecticut.
Connecticut.
I mean, it's just everybody just shaking their heads like, you got to be kidding me. I mean, everybody knows Lincoln Flagg.
Did the bus driver get a ticket?
No, he let him out of it.
He let him out of it. Yeah, I mean, it was incredible.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Hey, it pays. It's not what you know, it's who you know, right?
You know, as big as the world has gotten, it's still very, very true.
Yeah, and the world's very, very small because of the technology that we have. And you know, hey, I'll be honest with you. That's an important part of relative to these kids getting college placement as well. And that's all about relationships. It's all about building relationships and maintaining honest relationships with coaches and general managers of other junior level programs. And you know, the one thing I learned coming up as a player from Gary was that, you know, there's a few things in life you have control of, and your character and your reputation are two of those things. And once you lose those, they're gone. And so, you know, I think it's very, very important that you know, you develop these relationships and you're honest with coaches, because they're in the business of winning at the college level to maintain and control and keep their jobs.
Mm-hmm.
These schools, they want to win, and these coaches are paid to get the best players and win. So if I tell a coach, hey, I got a guy for you, and the kid is, you know, awful character, or he's just bad in the locker room, or he's not the player, but I'm telling this coaches, and this coach takes that player, I'll be the last player I ever get in that school.
Right.
You know, and so I feel that, you know, relationships, our relationship, Lane, my relationship with you, Paulie, you know, I think these are important aspects of the game. No matter who you work for, where you are, where you're going, where you come from, you develop these lifelong relationships with these coaches and people that you like as well. Because as you know, it doesn't matter what level you're playing at. There are quality programs, and there are programs that aren't of the same quality, we'll say. And I think it's important that you get to learn, you know, where you want to send players as a GM or as a coach. You know, what schools do these players fit into, both social, economic wise, academic ilk wise, and athletically, you know, and that social maturation. You know, where do they fit? What school is going to be best for them? What program is going to be best for them? And you do that by developing these relationships with these coaches and coaching staffs, and learn something about them and their background and what their philosophy is. And I think that is as important as what the players or what your philosophy is as a program. I think the philosophy that you're sending a player to, that type of program, is just as important. And if it's the same philosophy as the program he's coming from, then there's very little change and very little adaptation that they have to make once they get there, because they already know what's expected of them. They know how to behave. They know that nothing's going to change, and that, you know, these are all traits of players that are winners. So, you know, I think these relationships that we have, relationships that we develop as individuals, you know, both on the business side as well as the athletic side and academic side, are very important relative to these kids that are coming up, moving and getting a good education while still being able to play a top level brand of hockey.
Let me ask you a question, Link. Switching gears a little bit in the mindset of the players here. You've been involved in juniors for over 35 years. You've won national championships. You know how to deal with players. What's the difference, do you feel, today, the kind of players coming up opposed to the guys that we had even 10, 15 years ago? What's their mindset, and how is it different in dealing with players, and what kind of advice would you have for them?
Well, I think that going back to when we were players, the cost was much less. The social aspect of life was different. We'd be able to grab our stuff and walk 2 miles to a pond and play. And, also my mother knew was we were going out to hockey. Today, because of society and the changes in society and the dangers that are out there for children today, the parents are much more involved. With the cost of the game, the parents feel that they're entitled to some things, as do the players. So it's a little bit different. I think that really the secret behind coaching and staying involved in the game for a long time and not is I think you have to adapt with the society and with the type of player you're bringing in. And some guys call them soft players now, and some guys call them entitled players now. I think that's just a part of life and part of philosophy, and I think it's part of the culture that you develop as a coach and as an organization. Is that it's the same thing you see in the NHL. You'll see players in one program in one team in the NHL that are good players, but that aren't living up to their potential or playing the way they're capable of playing. They get traded to a team like, say, Pittsburgh, where the culture is all about winning, where if a Crosby or a Malkin go down, someone else is stepping up and winning games for that team. And all of a sudden this player, all of a sudden becomes another asset for that team that he wasn't with the team he came from. Why is that? I think it's all about culture. I think it's about taking kids and teaching them what it's going to take for them to find success on the rink and in the classroom and in life. And it's not about entitlement. It's not about, what can I do for you today? It's about how hard you work. It's about your attitude. It's about your goals and your focus. And it's understanding how to deal with adversity and how to deal with people in the locker room you may or may not like, or how to deal with a coach that maybe, you feel overbearing on you. Without understanding the background of that coach or why he's doing what he's doing. I think communication is key with these players today. I think that having your facts and figures when a player meets with you to say, hey, how come I'm not on the power play? Or, geez, coach, how come I'm not getting talked to by this school or that school? And explaining to them, these are your numbers. This is why. This is what you have to do to get there. And as long as they, I think, feel that they have an opportunity, every player has an opportunity to play. Every player is going to have that opportunity if he does A, B, and C. And I think players are willing to work for that. It's when you favor one player or another too much, whether that player is good or not. I mean, obviously in the pros, Crosby's going to get more shifts than a guy on the third or fourth line. That's the way it's going to be. And that's the way pretty much it is all the way up once you get out of youth hockey. And I think that's the biggest adjustment for a lot of these players is they come from youth programs that, may play guys more equally than when they get to junior. They come from programs that, only carry 10 skaters or 15 skaters. And now you got 25 skaters and you have to earn your way into the lineup every single day. And that's what they do at the college level. So I think just learning to deal with what you have and then recruiting the type of player that you want to fit into your program. Kids all the time say, well, geez, I was at tryouts and I scored more points than that guy. And people don't understand. It's not necessarily about how many points you get. It's the intangibles that you do on the ice. Do you block shots? Do you finish checks? Do you do the little things that are going to make you successful? When the puck goes in the corner 10 times, do you come out with it 9 times or do you come out with it once? What's your compete level? I think that being transparent in a tryout situation, being transparent when you're talking to players, that this is your expectations. We're setting them right now. This is what we expect of you as a person, of you as a student, and as you as a player on this team and this organization. I I think if you do that, then, you have some leverage on a player if he's not living up to what he's supposed to be living up to. Then you can come down on him. Obviously, I find the biggest part or the biggest, I would say, negative today is preparation. Is a lot of players, they don't understand how to prepare for a game or how to prepare for a practice coming out of youth hockey. And that's something that I think, if you have good leadership in your room that's gone through your program for a few years, that has that leadership that can then, act as another buffer between the coach and the players and handle things in the locker room with the other leaders of your team, I think it makes it for an easier transition. And again, that's culture. That's culture. That's something that the program develops, that the coach develops within the team. And sometimes to develop that, you have to sacrifice some guys that aren't buying in to send the message. You have to dismiss some guys, let them go, for whatever reason, and send that message to the rest of the players. And that's a little bit how that culture develops. But I think it comes basically from the character and the type of player you bring into your locker room, the work ethic of that player, the compete level of that player, and obviously the skill and IQ of that player. How are they different? I think they're different in that I think there's a little more expectation of entitlement today than there has been in the past. Though I think that you're finding a lot more players with a lot better skill coming up now. There's a lot more players playing junior hockey in North America today than there ever has been, which has helped out at the college level. It used to be if you were a tier 3 player, they call it now. Back then it was maybe a junior A player. Those kids are going to NCAA D3 schools. Well, now the kids going to NCAA D3 schools are coming out of tier 2 programs. They're the top level of the tier 3s. So where are all the other players going? Well, now they're going to the ACHA D1, D2, and D3 programs, which is strengthening those programs. I mean, I don't care who you look at today. You have fully funded ACHA programs now. You have programs like yours, Paul, the ACHA D2 level, serious programs that play in a very, very strong conference against some very, very good competition. And you've got kids coming out of prep schools. You've got kids coming out of tier 2 that are playing ACHA hockey now. So I think that junior hockey has helped in that aspect. And I think there's still a lot of very good players out there. I think it's just a matter of developing that culture and setting expectations of players early that this is what we expect. And, I think a big part of junior hockey is maturation, is players that are mature enough to handle living on their own if they're a billet player, living with a new family, but basically not living at home, having new expectations set on you, have new responsibilities, and being accountable in more ways than you have been if you're living at home. I think for players that are local, it's understanding that you're a small fish in a big pond, and when you look at a national collegiate recruiting thing, where here you may be a big fish in a little pond. So sometimes players think that maybe they're a little bit better than they are. I think that a lot of the players today have unrealistic expectations of where they're capable of playing college hockey, not knowing that, at the Division I level, there's an average of 300 players in the world that are recruited per year at the D1 level, and only 360 players a year at the NCAA D3 level. So with all the players playing hockey, what's going to differentiate you as a player versus someone else that are trying for those same spots?
Let's talk about that for a second. That's a great point right there, because I think you're right, Coach, that, as you get parents and players that are all over the country and even all over North America and really all over the world playing hockey, youth hockey, and working their way up with aspirations to play in college, it really is a very small number of actual players that are actively recruited and actually get to play at the NCAA D1 or D3 level. And then if you include everyone that even plays it at the ACHA, a D1, D2, D3 level, it's still a very small number as compared to the total number of junior hockey players out there, right?
Correct. This past year, there were 4,400 players playing junior hockey in North America.
4,400.
4,400 in North America, Canada and the United States only, not counting Europe or and not counting prep schools and not counting AAA programs and not counting high school players. These are just junior players. So the competitive level is extremely strong. That's why I think it's very important for programs to, I think, steer players to understanding that hockey is a tool. Just like a screwdriver when you want to remove a screw out of the wall. It's a specialty tool. And it's a tool that can open doors to colleges and universities that may not be open if you didn't have hockey. Mm-hmm. And the purpose of hockey should be used as a tool. It should be used as a tool to find a place where you can get the best education, yet still play 4 more years of a strong brand of hockey where you're going to play all the time. And I had a player years ago was being recruited by Northeastern as a walk-on in Amherst College as a recruited NCAA D3 player. And he came to me and he said, Coach, I'm confused. I don't know what to do. And I said, well, what's the issue? And he said, well, I have Northeastern recruiting me as a walk-on and I have Amherst College recruiting me. And I said, well, it all depends what you're looking for. I said, as a recruited walk-on, you have 1 year guaranteed in that locker room. You don't have any guarantee to game time. You'll practice every single day. You'll be the Rudy of Notre Dame at the recruited walk-on level. I said, after that year, if you don't produce, if you don't make the team, I said, then you're done. But you can tell people, hey, I played Division I college hockey, and you're going to get a good education at Northeastern University. It's a great academic school. I said, or, excuse me, you can go to Amherst College, play every single day of your life, get the best education in the world, and not have to worry about a job when you're done. And I said, it's all depending on where your perspective is and what you're looking for in your future, looking long-term, not just looking for the next couple of years. And he ended up going to Amherst College. He was captain, MVP his last year. He's now the guy that runs the war room in Toronto for all the instant replays for the NHL and makes a small, low-level NHL salary. This is the kind of steering that I talk about, okay? You can never make a decision for a player. It's wrong, because if that decision's wrong, then you're to be blamed, not the player. What you have to do is give the player all the pluses and minuses and try to steer them and help them try to figure out what the best path for them will be relative to their life, not relative to their hockey, relative to their life, okay? And very few people, 1% will go on to make a real living in this sport at the NHL level or the European level. 1%, that's not a whole lot of players. So, you know, when you look at it as a coach or you look at it as a general manager or an organization, everybody wants to win. That's why we play the game. I'm competitive. I mean, I don't care if we're playing tiddlywinks. I'll drop the gloves and go with you if I think you cheated in a tiddlywink game. All right. That's why we play the game. We're competitive individuals. We love to win. But you have to kind of balance that with, yeah, you want to win, but really, what are you here for? What's your purpose in life? I mean, why are you doing what you do? Are you doing what you do because, you know, you don't have the skills to work in another career? No, obviously not. You're doing what you do because of the love of the game, because of what it gave back to us as individuals.
Right.
And what we got out of it to find success in our lives and the lessons that we learned. So I think hockey is a lot bigger than just, you know, the pucks and the goals and the hits. You know, it's about learning how to be a successful person in life, you know, and using hockey as a tool to teach that, and using hockey as a tool to get that individual the best education. And I'll tell you what, I'll be honest with you, I almost never made it out of high school. I had a learning challenge. I didn't want anything to do with college. I hated school. My dad was a draft pick of the Chicago Bears. He was a pretty big guy. You know, I was more afraid of him, which is why I ended up going to school and not skipping as much school as everybody else did. But when I got out, I wanted nothing to do with school. I didn't feel, I almost didn't make it out. You know, I think maybe Algebra 1 might have been the highest level of math I had taken. I wasn't taking a college prep level classes, and I just wanted to get the heck out of there. And I graduated, and my counselor in high school told me, don't even apply to college, because if you do, you'll never get in, or you'll never make it through if you get in. And it was my junior coach that grabbed me. And my first meeting with him was, he goes, where do you want to go to college? Oh, coach, I don't want to go to college. I just want to play hockey. That's why I'm here, play hockey. I wanted to play hockey. And he looked at me and says, you don't understand something, son. He said, if you're going to play here, you're going to go to college. And he was the guy that made me understand the importance of education. He was the guy that made me understand the importance of character, of reputation, of hard work. And he made me understand that academics is not about being smart or dumb, because it's a result-oriented business. He said, what may take somebody 2 hours to do to get an A every night may take you 5 hours to do to get the same letter. He goes, but if you put the 5 hours in, then you're going to have the same results. And that's what I learned from hockey. Okay. And I had no problem with work ethic. That's what got me to where I was, because I started playing later in life. So I applied that to my academics. And long story short, I graduated with a double major on the dean's list, took my diploma back to my counselor and told me I needed to find another job. That I think plays the biggest part in my life relative to doing this job. And it's the thing that sits in the back of my head all the time. You know, what if Gary had just said, oh, okay, you just want to play hockey, no problem. Where would I be now? He told me one time where I would be. He said, you would learn the phrase very quickly, would you like fries with that drink? It's not a place that I was really be at. So, so I took that to light. I think that's an important aspect, as any organization needs to be. Yes, you can win, but it's all about the players that you have in your organizations. What can you do for them? It's not what they can do for you. And I tell guys all the time, when you look at organizations, when you look at places to play, do these places talk to you more about your hockey, or do they talk to you more about your academics, you know, your future, your goals? Where do you want to go in life? Do they care more about you as a hockey player, or do they care more about you as a person? Because if you're cared only about as a hockey player, then you're a commodity. And a commodity in junior hockey is someone that you can trade. If you care about them as a person, then you're going to help them to develop as a person, and develop as a student, and develop as an athlete. And you're going to make them the best well-rounded person you can be. And my philosophy always been, I mean, the only time I've ever traded a player is if they've been asked to be traded, or there's an issue with them and I don't want them on my team. And most of the time I won't trade them. I'll just release them, because I don't want to send my problem to somebody else.
Right.
Okay. My belief is this.
To a fellow team in the same league, right, or division.
Yeah, I mean, why do that? I mean, if I'm going to I'm going to tell the coach that this is the problem I have with the player. If he wants to take him for that reason, that's fine. Go ahead. But my philosophy is this: if you don't do your homework on a player, as much as the player needs to do his homework on a program, programs need to do their homework on players. Okay, and they need to know what type of guy you have coming in, and what their goals are, and you know what are they looking at? And I ask players all the time. I said, what's your goals for hockey? Well, I just want to play the highest college hockey level I can play. I said, well, that's not a goal. That's a dream. Okay, a goal is something concrete. Right? I want to play at Trinity College or Hamilton College, or I want to play at, you know, Michigan, or I want to play at, you know, Wisconsin Stevens Point, and this is one I want to. That's a goal. Mm-hmm. All right. So guys that are just out there floating around, you know, I want to see how high I can go. That's not a goal, and you're not going to get anywhere that way, because to get somewhere you have to have a plan. You have to have a path. You have to set something up, and this is where the problem comes in, and this is the problem I felt. Because when I've met with players where, now, coach, I like to play D1 hockey. Okay. I say, well, you're 18 years old. Has any D1 school contacted you yet? No. Okay, then you're behind the 8 ball. Maybe you're a late bloomer. I don't know. But, here's your evaluation from the staff as to these are your assets and these are your perceived liabilities. Okay. Well, for you to get better in the liabilities, this is what you have to do every day for 2 hours a day, after practice, after lift, after video. You have to do this, 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 and this. Okay, coach, I'm ready. I'll do it. Great. 2 weeks in, you bring him back in. You say, hey, I heard that you didn't, you weren't doing it a couple of days. Well, I had this, I had that. I said, okay, then let's change your goal. Because if you have a goal, then you don't miss that for something else. You work on your schedule to be able to do what you need to do to get to your goal while doing everything else that you're supposed to do. And I think they find that, geez, it's a lot harder than I thought it would be, and that's why it takes such a special individual to be able to play at the Division I level. Not only do you have to have God-given ability, you have to have everything else fall into place for you as well. You have to have the character. You have to have the compete level. You have to have the work ethic. You have to have the hockey IQ, and obviously your skills come from the God-given ability. All right. And you have to have parental support. You have to be in the right place at the right time. All these things fall into place to play Division I college hockey. That's why it's so difficult to get there. That and the fact that if you're talking about that 1% that are going to go on to make it, and 30% of the guys in the NHL now come out of college hockey, you figure it out, and pretty quickly you're saying to yourself, well, geez, maybe I should start looking at what I can do for my education, and that's
career.
why, in your career. And hockey's going to end. Yeah, we all would love to play in the NHL. There's nothing better in the world than wanting to play in the NHL and getting there. But the reality of it is, yes, set that as a goal. But if you're not willing to put the work into it that you need to even try to get there, then why are you doing it? Now let's set a more realistic goal that you can reach. And if a kid has that D1 potential, if a kid comes in at 14 years old and he's starting to put up 50, 60 points at the tier 3 level, then chances are, here's a kid that has the potential to play at that level. We've got to move him out of here. We've got to get him to a level where, he's going to be able to have that opportunity. And I think some programs will do that, and some programs are going to say, well, no, I think you need to stay here another year and play. And again, for a player, that's important to know. That's important to know if teams move you, or if they're going to move you on, or if they're just going to try to keep you around to help them become successful. So I think there's a lot going into that, Lane, and I think that it's important not only for, obviously the staffs do their homework, which they do a pretty good job of. There's in every level, you're going to find your programs that every year are in the playoffs, that every year are moving players on to schools, that every year are doing the right thing by their team and by their players. And then you're going to find programs that don't necessarily do that. And every year they have a new roster, because it doesn't take long for people to figure out what's going on and who's doing it the right way and who's not doing it the right way.
So, Coach, there's a lot of parents and players that are out there in this off season now, and they're looking at their decisions that they've got to make in terms of where we're going to go play this coming season. And so you've got these players that are either U16, U18 levels. We'll talk about hockey here. This is probably going to apply to any sport, but it's a little bit different in hockey. You've talked a lot about, the parents and the players need to do their homework as much as the organization needs to do their homework on the player. What advice would you give to parents and players in terms of how to do that homework? What questions should they be asking, or how do they ask those questions? Who do they ask those questions of? There's all these options between tier 3 and tier 2 and tier 1, and there's different leagues at tier 3 and tier 2. It's it can be kind of a confusing process for parents and players who are kind of where their kids are the players in high school or maybe coming out of high school. And so they've got to look at junior hockey, and it's a big jumbled mess out there. Give them some advice.
Oh, I don't know. Maybe play lacrosse, golf. You're 100% right. It's a quagmire, and it's very hard to navigate as a young player coming in, because there are a lot of people that will sell you snake oil, and it's not worth the money you pay. And then there are other programs that work really hard and really try to do the right thing by their player. And my advice is this, and I tell people this all the time. The best people to talk to, there are two different groups to talk to. One is former players that don't play there anymore. And I tell kids all the time, I'll give you the name of, here's a list of players that have played here in the last 5 years that don't play here anymore. Okay, you give me 3 names you want, I'll give you their phone numbers, you call them, you ask them anything you want to know about this program. Because as a former player that's not here anymore, there's no reason for them to lie. They can tell you exactly what their experience was, good, bad, or indifferent. And you get a better understanding of that program. Look at where they've sent their players. Ask for an alumni list. Where have you sent your players? Call some of the college coaches. Say, hey, coach, listen, I'm really interested in your program. I see that you recruit most of your players out of this league and from these teams. Can you tell me something about those programs and why you recruit from there? All right. Because if I'm interested in your program and you're recruiting from there, that's where I want to go. Okay. And then the final thing is, I know it's time consuming. I know it's expensive, but if you're going to spend the next year or 2 years or 3 years in a program, pay the money and go down and see the facility and see the program and meet the people in charge face to face. Look them in the eye, shake their hand. You'll get a feeling from that program by doing that as to, are these people really sincere? Are they legit? Or are they trying to sell me something? Are they just telling me stuff? If anybody promises you anything, run, because they don't give out college placements. Yeah, we can get you into that school, or, we can get you into this school, or, run, okay? Get the heck out, because that's a lie. Or, hey, no, I see you on first power play, and, you're going to play here, and you're going to play. Well, all of a sudden, what if that doesn't work out, and you don't make that power play? Right? Then now that coach is a liar, So coaches that give you that information, the information you should want to hear is, hey, this is what we do. This is how we do it. This is where we moved our players. I'm not going to promise you anything. Everything is earned here. And if you earn it, then this is what you'll get. Okay. And this is how you have to earn it. And again, it's transparency. It's communication with the player. It's not throwing lies out there to try to get the player, because everybody's doing that. Everybody's saying, hey, oh yeah, you'll be here. You'll be first line, or yeah, we see you our first line guy here. Oh yeah. If you come here, if you come to our program, then we can move you up to our tier 2 team. All right. And that, if someone tells you that, then go find out how many players came up last year from their tier 3 team to their tier 2 team. Ask who came up, and
so
then
do
ask
your
for
due
their
diligence. Don't just take the first answer. Go do some due diligence, fact check.
100%. Because this is important, because especially as a young player, if you're coming out of U16, then you basically have 4 years to earn a college scholarship or a college placement. Okay, if you're U18, then basically you have 2 years. And the player that has 4 years, your development curve is going to be able to take its place. The person that has 2 years, it's not. You have to get to a program that's going to get you right on the map, that's going to get you right in front of these college guys, that's going to give you a leg up, or you deal with a group of like elite profiles, elite junior profiles guys. Guys that are really folks that care about the player. They're not just in this to make dollars and cents. They care about players. They care about getting the exposure. They work hard at it. And it's just another additional tool that gives players an opportunity to use besides their coaches. And I tell guys all the time, no one's going to advocate for a player better than that player. Okay. And the more tools you have at your disposal, the better the tools you have at your disposal, the more opportunity is going to present itself. And it's the same thing you're talking about. What do players do now with this lockdown or stay-at-home stuff, and they want to, play junior hockey next year? advocate for yourself. I get emails, I get video every single day of players that are saying, hey, I'm interested in your program. Okay. And again, if it's, Elite Junior Profiles, I can go on that, and we've already found players on there that we've gone after relative to playing next year. Okay. It's a tool for coaches as well as for players to get that exposure.
Yeah.
So I think that that's important that, yes, they do their due diligence, but they also advocate for themselves, as to which team they want to go to. And you do that, and you can do it to a lot of different teams. Don't limit yourself to one team, because the more options you have in life, the more success you're going to find. But send it out to 10 or 15 teams. And then the teams that respond to you are teams that obviously are interested because they're responding, or they at least have the courtesy and character to get back to you. And the teams that don't bother with, because they're not teams that are interested.
They're not showing that interest, right?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, hey, yeah, we're interested in you because of this. We're interested in you because of that. When I reply to a kid, it's, hey, we have interest in you because we saw your video and we like this that you do. Okay. We're not interested in you just coming to our tryout and spending $100 and putting it, as a fundraiser for us. We're here about trying to help you. And the only way we can see sometimes, guys, is through tryouts or through video. And I think it's also an important aspect of what you guys do with Elite Junior Profiles. You have those videos for coaches to look at. So I think the more tools they have, the more due diligence they do, the less chance you're going to have of making a mistake and losing a year of development or losing a year of moving forward. Because right now, at the age of these kids, 16, 18, you cannot afford to lose a year and take 2 steps backwards, and then try to, get to the goals that you're trying to achieve.
So let's talk about the for hockey specific players right now. There's all these different leagues. You got the USPHL Tier 3. You've got USPHL. You got EHL. You got the Western States Hockey League. That alone is a really confusing, process to navigate for a lot of the players and parents out there. Is there a difference between the leagues? Like, okay, so let's take a hypothetical, I'm a parent and I've got a player who wants to play at NCAA D3 or D1. It's, they've got some schools on their radar. Should we be looking at one league over another? Or I heard you say earlier, it's really about who and it's about the coach, but how do you navigate the different leagues that are out there and choose which one's better or worse? There's all that confusion out there, and you talk to 10 people, you get 10 different opinions.
Yeah, of course. I don't think that you can put this league's better, that league's better brand on any Tier 3 league. I think that within each league, you have some divisions and you have some programs that are run properly that are very good, okay, and that move players to college. Let's face it, Tier 3 is Tier 3. I think that it's way too big. I think that you have way too many teams out there. The product is watered down overall, and it's like anything. If you get to it's like when the NHL had 6 teams. You had guys in the American League that would be playing in the National Hockey League today any day of the week. I had guys that I knew, Jimmy Anderson, a Hall of Famer in the American League out of the Springfield Indians. Today he'd be an NHL star, but because there was only 6 teams, that's why the NHL was so good back then. And everything's grown because of the dollar bill, and it's been allowed to grow by certain, I think, boards that run these things to a point now where that's part of the due diligence process. You look at schools that you want to go to, you look at their roster, and you find out where those players came from.
So you back into the best programs based on figuring out, which really marries back to what you said. I mean, if you just say, I want to play D1 or D3, that's just a dream or a fantasy.
Right.
If you have a goal of going, I want to go to one of these 6 schools, then what I hear you saying is then go to those colleges, look at their rosters, and start backing into where those kids coming from, And then as a parent or a player, start looking at those programs that place their players in those college programs.
Well, you're also missing one important step here. While you're looking at those schools and those rosters, is there availability coming that next season for him?
That's a nuance that the average parent and player won't know, Paul. Maybe expand on that just a little bit.
Oh, it's, just like what we're talking about here. If you're looking at rosters and I want to go to a certain school and I play forward and they only have one senior graduating, well, that means there's only one spot open, right? Well, that's a tough nut to crack, right? So you got to look at your other options. Well, this school is losing 8 forwards. This one's losing 4. This one's losing 1. Okay? Well, academically, now we go back here. So everything's got to go in line with your academics and your ability and a little bit of luck. Okay? You've got to make sure, and the interest is there from the school, right? Not that I want to go to this school. Well, does this school know that you want to go there, and are they interested in you? Do they have a need for the kind of player that you are?
So maybe just expound that. Maybe we can get Lincoln to pitch in too. But Paul, you and Lincoln talk a little bit about how does a player who wants to go to a school where they're not on the radar of that school yet, and maybe this applies to a junior program too. I want to go to XYZ junior program, but I'm not on their radar yet. So how do we stand out, differentiate ourselves, get ourselves on the radar of that coach and that program to really, potentially, open up an opportunity for me as a player in this program or in these 3 or 6 programs, whatever it might be. What are the specific things that parents and players can do to help with that process, stand out, differentiate, do their homework at XYZ?
Well, I'm going to say one thing, Lincoln, I'll let you jump in. But to me, I think the player, and Lincoln touched on this before, is they have to be proactive and they have to initiate contact right off the bat. And especially in these times right now, it's imperative that you take the initiative, which is why we have the profiles that we do that gives coaches the most in-depth information about their player, okay, and get it out to these coaches. Let them know that they're interested in their program. That's number one, that's priority. I mean, you've got to get out there because there's so many players, like we mentioned, that coaches, there's no way for them to know everybody, no way to see everybody, right? So what do? Well, I've got to get in front of this guy. That's my priority. I would say is be proactive.
So be proactive be proactive in terms of reaching out to the coach via email, likely, right? You're not going to call him on his cell phone or try and hunt him down on his cell phone without him even knowing you. So
you definitely
email approach.
Email with your profile, all the pertinent information. Give this coach something to look at, and because of what we've created here, I think it's a one-stop shop where we have enough information between your academics, your transcripts, your social media, your disc enhanced player assessment. That coach has a really good idea of who this kid is, where he's playing, what's he all about, his character, integrity, all the intangibles. Okay, you know what? I want to take a look at this kid, or I want to call this kid, or maybe talk to the parents, right? So that all starts from being proactive. Take the initiative.
Coach Lincoln, what are you looking for? I'm sure you get plenty of emails, plenty of players or parents who are interested in sending their, coming to play for you. How do you differentiate? What stands out to you? What are things that you pick out and you go, wow, this kid looks like something we should talk to?
Well, like Paul said, the first thing that you want to do is email. Okay, let the coach know you're interested. We get emails all the time, like I said. The next thing I like to do is personal phone call, because you can hear a lot from what a player says and how they say it, how they carry themselves, how they handle themselves, how they talk, what their academic ilk is like, and you can get a little bit of the intangibles from that. You ask for video, and a lot of times video's good, but in a lot of aspects, you can't really tell the speed of the game from the video.
Right.
And so what I would do if I was a player wanting to play junior hockey is I would start emailing a year before I want to go. I would start emailing and getting out like the profile services, the disc enhanced profile stuff that you guys offer to these coaches a year before I want to go, along with my schedule. And then during the year, everything's about name recognition. So I would make sure that I'm contacting that coach with an email, especially if the coach has gotten back to you by phone and talked to you once or twice, once every 2 weeks or once a week with a little video clip of your game. And if every game, you're dominating and you're scoring and you're playing really well, and you can send a good video clip to that coach, it's going at least to wet his whistle enough to want to take a look at you and see you play. Then you send him a video of the full game and let him watch you in a full game scenario. And you can do it by shifts if you want to make it a little bit easier for the coach. You can do it by just by shift. And then they're going to make a decision about you and come out and see you. Okay. Then when they come out and see you, it's basically going to be, is the speed of the game at the level that we need the player to play at? Is the player really the player away from the puck that you want to see that you may not see in the video? You already know a lot about the intangibles. You can call his coach. You can call people that know him. Like I said, networking is a big part of advancement in this game. Some of the best players that I've had come to my program have been through networks of other coaches and players that I know that are coaching, at different levels. So I think just name recognition, getting it out, letting that coach, and then staying in touch with that coach. Don't give up on it. Be persistent. The squeaky wheel gets the oil. Keep your name in front of his desk. That way, if he goes to the nationals and you're playing in it, or if he goes to a big showcase and you're playing in it, and he's looking through the book, and all of a sudden, boom, there's your name. That name has come across his desk so many times, that's recognizable now. As you say, oh, he's here. He's here. I can see him play. And he's going to watch you play. And then maybe he comes down and talks to you or gives you a call after the showcase. Excuse me. But that's 100% right, especially in these times. Video is your friend. Video, if you have any video. And if you don't have video, then I would suggest that, you have somebody do some video of you, whether it be a parent, a friend, hire somebody to come out and that does video and do a video for you. Do something that can get a coach to watch you. And then it's going to be, what part of the puzzle do you fit in? Because obviously as a coach, when you're putting a team together, it's like a jigsaw puzzle. You need some playmakers, you need some goal scorers, you need some guys that are going to dig pucks out of the corner, you need some defensive players, you need goaltending. What part of that puzzle will you fit into? And that's another aspect of it. At the college, D1 college level, at the pro level, they may be saying, hey, I need a right-hand defenseman to play the left point and run the power play for me. And that's the only guy they're going out to look for. If they have a guy that, you look like a guy like Cale McCarr, he came into UMass and he was that guy. And we needed a guy to run the power play. And he's doing that right now all the way up right through to the NHL level with Colorado. So, there's a lot of aspects that go into it. That's why you don't focus on just one specific program. That's why you have to have several programs, just like you want to look at several colleges. You don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. Right. When you're looking at college hockey, you start out with 8 schools at different levels, all 8 schools. And as you go through the years, and your 8 schools can come out when you're a 15-year-old, or a 16-year-old. You can decide these are 8 schools I really like and try to be realistic and get some feedback from people that and contact those schools. Go visit those schools in the summer so you see what it's like there. And when you're at the school, go knock on the coach's door. Introduce yourself. Hey, coach, how are you? Do you have a second? Hey, I just want to introduce myself. Hi, I'm so-and-so. I've emailed you. I was just at the school. I was taking a tour, taking a look. I just thought I'd come in and introduce myself. I don't want to waste your time. I just wanted to say hi and then let the coach go from there. If he says, hey, well, just nice to meet you. Thanks for coming in. Stay in touch and we'll be in touch with you. Then you leave. If he says, hey, well, it's great to have you here, sit down. Then you sit down and he's going to talk to you. Those are the two things that'll happen depending on his time frame, what he's got going on, and if he has some interest in you. If a coach brings you in and sits you down and spends some time with you, and maybe now he can't with recruiting violations, but he can't show you the rank, but can sit down and talk to you a little bit about it because you came to him, he didn't come to you. Those are aspects that can give you telltale signs that, hey, this guy maybe have some interest in me.
What I hear you guys both saying really is, number one, the student athlete, the player, and likely the parents along with them are going to have to do some homework and due diligence and work. It's not like it's just going to happen because you want it to. You have to dig in. You have to ask questions. You have to do some things proactively, as Paul was saying, to position yourself. And really what both of you were talking about is really some principles that really have their root in marketing. I have to stand out. I have to differentiate. I have to, Coach, what I hear you just saying too is not be afraid. Put yourself out there, with the coach. Pick up the phone and call them, send out the email. If you go and visit, knock on their door proactively. Don't be afraid, but then also be smart about it. Don't just, throw up verbally, in your email or on the phone call. Have a plan of attack, have some things that you're going to do to position yourself as a player that is a candidate to go play in their program.
Well, I think they have to, again, being realistic, and honestly, the only way that this is going to happen, you got to go make it happen. Just because you say it doesn't mean it's going to happen. You got to go make it happen, right?
It's like anything in life, Paulie. It's also like if you want a job, it's just not going to show up.
Mm-hmm.
You have to go out and you have to sell yourself, and you have to make that person think that, hey, this is the guy I want. It's the best guy for the job. I want to bring this person in. And you do that through, like Lane says, through marketing of yourself, through elite junior profiles, where you have all that information right there for a coach, through networking, through guys that coaches that I've coached enough youth kids that, will call me up and say, hey, Coach, really, I'm interested in playing junior for your program next year, and I've got to be honest with them. I think you have an opportunity to play here, or, I think you should try out and see where you land. But, I don't think anything's guaranteed right now, or I don't think you're ready for this. Maybe you look at a U18 or U17 program and play there for a year. And this is what you have to work on, whether it be your feet or your IQ or your hands or whatever it might be, before you're going to be ready to come up. I think, and that's what's missing today in not only business, but in sports too, and recruiting, is honesty. I think coaches are afraid to tell a kid, maybe he's not ready for that level, and I think that's important. I think that's something the kid has to, whether you like to hear it or not. Anybody that's told me the truth, I might not have liked it, but at least I respected them.
They're helping you too.
Yes, exactly.
I think there's a reason that a lot of guys are like that, is because there's the job security in a coaching position is not the greatest.
No.
Right? So you're trying to win. You'll say what you got to say to get kids, and unfortunately, that takes you down the wrong path. Right? So you're right. It's all about being honest, and if you're not afraid to you're not worried about your job as a coach. We coach for the kids. We're helping kids, right? Turning into young men and women, and the whole thing is about how can we help them develop and get to where they want to go, and that's the goal here. But to your point, I think honesty is lost because the constant turnover in the coaching positions.
Tactically, I want to also just point out for those who are listening, and maybe for those who might be watching. So if you're a student athlete and you're looking for a program to get into in the next season, you're doing what we're talking about. You're going to be proactive, and you're going to really take an active role in where you're going to go play next season and where you ultimately want to go play in college. One of the things you can do is go to our Elite Junior Profiles website, go under our directories menu option and click on coaches. If you click on that coaches link, it'll take you to this page that I'm showing here on our screen here. You can click on more filters, and you can actually filter our coaches and scouts, by their primary sport. And by doing that, it's going to filter the entire list by the sport that you have. We're more hockey heavy right now than other sports, but we're growing other areas of coaches in other sports as well. But if you want to take a proactive role in reaching out to hockey coaches and programs, or baseball coaches and programs, or soccer coaches and programs, go to the directory and actually find coaches that are directly right here, and you can reach out to them directly through Elite Junior Profiles with their email. And we're there to help provide coaches and scouts an opportunity to get registered for free on our website and put themselves out there so that players can actually proactively reach out to them if there's interest. But then like Coach Flagg was saying, he's actually as a scout and a coach gone on to Elite Junior Profiles and then gone to our profiles section and actually found players who have profiles on Elite Junior Profiles to begin the conversation with from a recruiting standpoint. So both student athletes and coaches and scouts really can kind of come together on our website and our platform and find each other, which was really the part of the idea there. Coach?
Gone?
Yeah, Paul had to step away real quick. Coach Flagg, what do you so you've got I'm sure I know you're kind of a coach of other coaches too. That's part of the role you play, is helping other coaches. What advice would you give to other coaches that are, whether it's just general advice, in a normal off season, or we've got a special kind of period of time both in our country and for our entire world here with the COVID-19 crisis, but many special insights or advice you want to give to fellow coaches?
I'm a big believer in never quit learning, never quit evolving as a coach. And I think that's probably one of the reasons I've been able to do this for so long, because if I coach today as I did 20 years ago, I'd probably be, kicked out, because back then the kids were able to handle the way I coached. So I've had to adapt my coaching some with the change in society, let's say, with the type of kid that comes into the program, type of kids playing hockey right now. On the other hand, too, I continually try to learn the game, because the game has changed so well. Back when I played, it was a good thing. You could basically tackle a guy and it was a good hit. And that's one of the only reasons I was able to play the game at any level. Today it's about speed and skill and angling, and even offensively, it's not about puck protection as much as getting the pucks by guys and using your speed to get around them to pick pucks up in tight areas. Guys like McDavid and Draisaitl and players like that. So I think it's important that you use the tools that you have, especially in technology today. I mean, I'm a bit of a dinosaur. When I started, there was no internet, so it was all by snail mail when you wanted to contact people, or phone. But I think that you continue to learn and evolve as a coach. Always strive to get better as a coach. I love going to podcasts and listening to guys that are professional coaches, going to clinics, anything that can help me become better as a person and a coach.
Coach Paul, why don't you talk to me as Coach Flagg was talking about, always be learning and tools for a coach. It was a kind of a great transition to talk about our tool with the disc enhanced profile and the team dynamics report that we can run for a coach or a program when they have all of their players, which have a disc enhanced profile. Why don't you talk about how you use that, the team dynamics report and the disc enhanced profile for the Golden Bears team last season as a coach, and just talk about that tool and how coaches can use the team reporting that we can do for them in terms of as a tool for them as a coach.
Well, the beauty of this is that obviously the disc player assessment, we had a lot of our players get the enhanced profile. They took the disc player assessment, and it gives them the report about the strengths, the weaknesses, the behavioral tendencies, all the intangibles about that player away from the rink, right? So you really get an in-depth look on what's the best approach and how to get the most out of each player and help them grow, right? And so now you have an entire roster full of personal reports, and that creates the team disc report. And now that's the tool as a coach that you have everybody, exactly the makeup of your team
Yeah.
staring at you in the face. Now it's about your approach and what direction do we really need to go to? Maybe just a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and you got a championship team. So it really gives you. This is stuff that years ago, Lincoln. We didn't have any of this stuff, and it's modern technology, right? So now you get an idea of what kind of players now maybe you put in certain situations that you would have never thought about during the course of a game. When the game's on the line, which kid responds better in certain situations than others? It's all in here. And if you do your homework, you'll be better for it as a coach, get better results, and you're helping your players grow and develop and continue to play the game that they love.
So in this report here, what we're actually looking at is the actual players on the 16U team. They had all players had taken the disc assessment. So they each had their own individual disc report, which focuses just on their behavioral style, their character, their strengths, their communication styles, all that. But then with all of them having their own individual report, we're able to actually pull a team dynamics report. And then, like you were saying, then the coach has a staring at you in the face, a bird's eye view of your team makeup. So you can see the personality and behavioral styles of each of your players in one report, which now gives you really a good idea as a coach of what you're working with as a whole team, right?
Right, exactly. And it's no surprise that the one person that's in the D section is your captain.
Let me guess, he was one of your captains.
He's your captain. Right, one of them, yes.
Yep.
So, and again, this gives you a very, very good idea going into your training camp. How many D's do we have, right? How many S's? Or, who's that? And that's going to starts to gel and comprise of your makeup of your team.
So in this case, if I were a coach looking at this, and especially if I were looking at this before the season even started, while I was still in recruiting mode, I would be like, man, we really need to look for another D or another 1 or 2 D level type players who have the D for disc, the dominance as their key driver of their personality and behavioral style, because we're lacking in this area. And so, this is where, we've talked to some other coaches who are using this before the season starts in their recruiting, so that they know, like you were saying, specific roles, not just roles where they're right-handed and have the specific skill set on the ice, but they also have specific roles in their behavior and personality style, which go into team makeup, team culture, team leadership, right?
Exactly. And going back to Lincoln's point here, now imagine that you have this in your profile and you're sending it to college coaches.
Yeah.
Now they know exactly what sector you're in. What kind of player is this kid? Is he a leader? Is he somebody that's, got a little bit of limitations in this area, but strong in this area? Is that what we're looking for next year? Is he a good fit for our culture? That's the purpose of this. And again, it gives you a leg up because of the madness. When this madness breaks, it's going to be a sprint to the finish line.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to do anything that you can to separate yourself from the masses. And what better way to really describe yourself through something like the disc player assessment?
And as a coach, we were talking about tools here. This disc report that you get as an individual disc report, once it's the report, the assessment's taken, the report's done. As a coach, this gives you phenomenal insight into this individual player, student athlete that's on your team. And Maybe Paul, you can talk a little bit about that in terms of how you used it this last season.
Well, again, it gives you, I mean, look at the paragraphs that it tells you, this player could be willing to jump into a project, give appropriate focus every day, day-to-day minutia, without complaining, starting to go to dirty work, to do for others. That kind of information is invaluable. I mean, it's all the other profiles that we've seen and we've compared against are data-driven, right? And mommy and daddy writing a little paragraph about Johnny, how he's the best thing since sliced bread. Well, that's not what we're about. We're about facts and really, really in-depth information that coaches can sit down and look at that profile and know exactly, going from that to his academics, to his social media platforms, right? They'll have a really good idea of who that player is.
Yeah. And we're looking at a profile right now, and we're going to their disc enhanced section of the profile. And so for a coach, if you're a player and you give a coach this access, you give them your link to your profile, they can come right in here and see what are your strengths, what's your behavioral tendencies. They can actually get the full report. They get an abbreviated recruiting report that we provide that's just kind of a smaller subsection of a full report. They can get your academic information so they can see, are you going to be a match for the type of program that we are, because we want to place our players at this level. These programs that we place at require a GPA of 3.5 or higher. Well, if you've got a 2.9, you have kind of eliminated yourself. So coaches can also come in here and really quickly find the types of players that will fit into their program based on what they're looking for, whether it be personality and behavioral style or academic components that they need, or what the case may be.
And they're using these analytics all the way up through the NHL too. They're doing this stuff all the way up. So this is it's good that if you get in early on it and you get your disc and you get your assessment, that's huge for coaches because they're already using it.
And that's why we actually incorporated this, because we learned from a company that they're teaching college coaches how to use the disc as a tool in their recruiting process to make sure they're recruiting the right players, right? So that's why we felt it was very important to get that incorporated into the enhanced profile. Very important, very important. And it's not just hockey that we're talking about. We're talking about every sport. I've had some great conversations with coaches in other sports that absolutely love the enhanced profile.
Yep. So let's wrap up this episode. Coach Flagg, you've showered us with insights, some golden nuggets of wisdom. We've gone back
as always.
Give us some parting advice, whether it's maybe we're all going through a little bit of a tough time, as a country, and we're all kind of in quarantine mode, but we know this is going to end. But maybe shower us a little wisdom on just how to handle this short chapter in our history, and student athletes and parents and coaches who are going to listen to this episode. Give them something, some parting wisdom, maybe.
I don't know. I just think basically everything's about perseverance, and it's about setting your goals and going after them, whether it be a coach and his team goals, or whether it be an individual player and their personal, individual, or academic goals. But start to sit down and set them. It's one thing I'm disappointed in a lot of the public schools. They don't teach goal setting. Some of the private schools do. But a lot of these kids come in, and even coaches, they haven't set goals. They don't know how to set proper goals. I think that's an important part of life. And also the last thing would be to read. I mean, it's a great time to read. Read books on mental toughness. Read books on what coaches look for. Read books from other coaches. I mean, there's some great books. Scotty Bowman's got a couple of great books. That Mike Babcock's got a great book out. So there's books out there that you can read on to become better in your craft and become better in your sport. And I think that parents, players, coaches, on a daily basis, if you're not trying to strive to become better then you're going to become stagnant. And once you become stagnant, then you're not going to be a benefit to yourself or anybody else. So I'd say let's as a group, let's continue to get out there, and as coaches, let's continue to motivate and help young men and women, become the people and student athletes that they want to become. And as players, let's not understand that nothing is given, that everything is earned. And as soon as you get that concept in your head, you'll go out and you'll earn it. And once you do, you'll get that satisfaction of having done that, and you'll be a better person, a better player for it. So, and I want to thank both of you for allowing me to come on and speak today. It's been a pleasure always catching up with the two of you.
Yeah.
We'll have to do this more often once this stay-at-home stuff ends. We can do it together in a place and have a beverage or two and talk some more hockey. So I thank you, and you're doing a great thing here with Elite Junior Profiles. You're providing a service at a very low cost that's very high end, that anyone can use in any sport to benefit themselves and to do some of the things that we talked about today. And I thank you.
Thanks, buddy.
Awesome, Coach Flagg. We really appreciate you spending time with us, and like I said, giving us lots of insight and wisdom from your many years of experience. I know we'll have people who will listen to this who will greatly benefit from the things you've shared with us this morning. Paul and I super appreciate you and everything you do for the sport, for kids and their families, just the way you invest in people. Like everything that we talked about this morning is about people, about human beings, kids who have goals, parents who want to see their kids achieve great things, and just the things you shared this morning in terms of how to put some of those pieces together to make it actually really happen and become a reality have been priceless, and we thank you for it.
Oh, my pleasure. I love doing it. Thank you, guys.
All
Thanks,
right.
Coach Flagg.
All right, buddy.
Talk soon.
Take care.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.